Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there this morning and having a fantastic start to your day and a great week out there so far. Thank you all for tuning in this morning as we discuss what's going to happen weather-wise for your Thursday. After we're done doing that, we'll give you updated information on this winter storm potential for areas of the southern plains. Could even get a little accumulating snow for areas in the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and then a more high-end ceiling event for areas of the Northeast. Now, you would think as we get closer to this event, models would converge a little bit better, but they're not. So we'll talk about what the models are saying for this system as we get into early next week for the Northeast, but this is going to start as early as later this weekend for areas of the South Central U.S. So we're going to speak on that. After we move past that, we will speak a little bit on a time frame I am watching kind of between, I would say, the 18th through the 21st of February, but that is on out there, as we know, and yeah, there's model guidances everywhere on this, but we will continue to kind of talk about that time frame, especially if it becomes a little bit more interesting as far as winter weather. But there is going to be a severe weather threat for this system that we're going to be speaking on heavily in this video for later this weekend into early next week, as the Storm Prediction Center has issued a slight risk for day 4, which is our Sunday, for areas of the South. So we'll speak a little bit on that, but not heavily. We'll speak more on that as we get a little bit closer. So if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Thank you all for the kind comments on last night's video. I just kind of breezed through them and read some of them. Appreciate the encouragement. I'm a tough guy. I can handle it for the most part. But, I speak more so for people out there that I guess isn't in a better mental state to handle, trolls on the internet and things like that. It's wild to me that people hide behind a screen and just fire off shots left and right to people, and it's not really so much more so speaking of me, but it's kind of defending others who are much more heavily impacted by words on social media and things like that. And it's just wild to me that people are so lost out in left field that they don't think about that kind of stuff before posting it. So anyways, appreciate the encouragement, the kind words. Thank you so much for that, and that's why we have a family type atmosphere on this YouTube channel. I'll catch up with the comments from that later this afternoon, as always. And if you guys got anything that I can pray for or pray over, please put those in the comments below so I can pray over it and so others can do so too. Let's get rocking and rolling. So we take a look at what's going on out there right now. We got some rain moving through Minnesota. I mean, it's still early February and we're dealing with rain in Minnesota. That's pretty pathetic winter weather-wise, but here we are. Snow flying around in Montana, a little bit of snow in North Dakota. And we were watching this little feature right here in South Dakota in yesterday morning's video. It's delivering a little heavy, wet snow in areas of like central South Dakota. A little bit of energy flying through southeast sections of Wyoming and kind of the northern range of Colorado, but nothing significant at all. A little bit of light shower activity for the south. And waking up to some rain in Las Vegas this morning for sure. But California is a lot more quiet for the most part, and the eastern U.S. continues to be very quiet. Storm Prediction Center today. This will be an interesting topic once we get to the north central frame. Weather Bill was really struggling with me this morning trying to load up the panels. So I don't have as many panels loaded up as I wanted to for this area, but we will watch for a sneaky tornado threat here in southern Wisconsin and northern Illinois a little bit later today. But there is a couple areas to watch for some thunderstorms. I don't expect this to be a big deal, but I can tell you the storm chaser community is all amped up about this. So these are the kind of events that can overproduce. So I wouldn't be surprised one bit we get a couple tornadoes out of this today in northern Illinois. So be aware if you're in Rockford, Peoria, points north. We'll speak a little bit more on this when we get to that part of the video. Excessive rainfall outlook. Hey, this is good news. It's below 5%. There's no areas to really stress about or worry about. So nothing to really speak on as far as heavy rainfall today. Watches, warnings, advisories. We do have wind advisory south of this low in the north central U.S. This is pretty common with situations like this with a strengthening low to the north. So we're going to have some windy and breezy conditions in the Midwest today, Iowa, Missouri, surrounding states. Winter weather advisories continuing for the northern plains and some winter storm warnings continuing for areas of the central and southern Rockies. And the pink winter weather advisories in those purple colors. The eastern U.S. is just quiet. Continues to be very quiet. And it's been like that for the most part for the last, couple weeks at least. Southeast today, high pressure kind of dominating the region for the most part, but there is a little bit of moisture kind of flanking around the west side of this high pressure. So this will be in the form of some shower activity in eastern Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi. Very light shower activity, definitely not a soaking rain by any means, but we get into this afternoon, some shower activity can make its way into Memphis. And then as we get into this evening, more shower activity, a little bit more widespread, makes its way into sort of western Tennessee and western Kentucky. And then we're getting into the middle of the night, and isolated to widespread showers are possible throughout the state of Tennessee, northern Alabama, Mississippi. And by the time we're waking up for a Friday morning, high pressure is displaced a little bit. Therefore, the moisture gets displaced a little bit further to the east, and just in the mid-south and areas of the deep south, just some rain showers around, maybe areas of heavier bursts of rain, but this isn't a big deal at all, folks. Northeast today, pretty quiet weather. We get into this afternoon, nothing. Getting into this evening, nothing. Getting into the overnight hours, and a little bit of rain shower activity kind of drifting through Ohio late tonight. Into the overnight hours, a little bit of rain shower activity is possible. Around midnight, points after in West Virginia, moving west to east, western PA, a little shower activity moving through. Western New York State, this is all rain, even though it should be snow this time of the year. It's just rain. And then rain. And when I say rain, it's a very thin corridor of rain kind of skirting through the western sections of New York. So you're waking up tomorrow to maybe some rain shower activity in areas of New York State, maybe some splotches of rain showers in northern PA is possible here. North central U.S., there's that light shower activity I was talking about, a little bit of a moist flow coming out the Gulf of Mexico around this high pressure. We get into this evening, not a whole lot going on, some snow flying around the Rockies back here, as it continues to add up, where you guys are getting slammed in kind of those southwest ranges of Colorado, higher elevations of New Mexico getting a lot of snow. And then we're waking up Friday morning, and we're watching maybe some mischief developing here in Colorado, maybe a little bit of snow that will try to make its way into Colorado Springs, Denver for our Friday morning. We'll speak on that a little bit more, maybe in tonight's video if we get one out, into the tomorrow morning's video. So not a whole lot going on, though, as we're waking up for our Friday morning. The north central U.S., a little bit more activity to talk about. We continue to deal with this rain in areas of Minnesota. It's pretty wild that, in places like International Falls, it's just going to be dealing with flat-out rain today. It's not even cold enough for snow in these areas. There's that 989 millibar low making its way through Minnesota, kind of, as far as strengthening, it's staying more so stationary. It's not really a weakening or strengthening. But you see these little splotches down here in northern Illinois, these stronger storms trying to fire up here. We'll have to watch for those. And there's even some storm threat up here in Wisconsin. We would have to watch out for this also, as there's definitely favorable lift, but you're lacking thermodynamics up in Wisconsin for any kind of significant severe weather. But that does not mean you can't get it. But we could actually get some thunderstorms in early February, and maybe the UP and Michigan today, maybe. And then some wraparound cold air catches up with that moisture, a little bit of snow shower activity flying around in many areas of Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, but absolutely nothing substantial at all. So this is really what we're watching today. A lot of eyes are on these cells that kind of fire up right here. This is around 4 or 5 o'clock this afternoon, this evening. You got to watch these. These could do something interesting. I am watching this. A lot of storm chasers are hyped up about this. There'll be some chasers out on these. So these could produce in southern Wisconsin. Watch out, Janesville, the Rockford, Chicago. I think that these will lose some steam by the time you get into Chicago. But you got to watch. I think there's a 1 to 3 hour window with these storms. I think that's about it. And so we'll watch out for these. I don't think we're going to get any like EF3 tornadoes out of this, but I would not be surprised one bit if we get something out of this area right into here. So definitely be aware. The western U.S., just moisture flying around. Snow will continue to fly around in the higher elevations of Arizona and of southern Utah. Just kind of more so just splotchy in nature out here. We get into later this afternoon, you see these kind of splotches of blue just scattered about in nature here. Just some higher elevation snow showers, lower elevation rain. And then we start to get into later this evening, into the overnight hours, more of a consolidated area of snow flying around the higher elevations of Utah and then the higher elevations of Colorado and western Colorado. A little bit of moisture making its way into the Pacific Northwest in the form of some higher terrain cascade snow, maybe some shower activity in Seattle, light snow flying around in Montana as we're getting into tomorrow morning, and we'll watch this little system as we are getting deeper into our Friday morning. Temperatures, man, it's just stupid warm. I know that's a weird term, but just ridiculously warm for February 8th standards. I mean, here we are, trying to hit 70 degrees in St. Louis, and there's that little warm air surge for those storms to kind of take advantage of in Illinois. I mean, the temperatures widespread 60s and 70s in Arkansas, Oklahoma. It's wild because Oklahoma, a good chunk of Oklahoma has a chance to see accumulating snow here in the next few days. But today, you're going to warm into the 60s and 70s, widespread 70s. Protected by a little bit of a return flow from the northeast for the Carolinas and the mid-Atlantic, so a little bit more chillier. But I mean, even those areas of the country, pretty warm, pretty nice, but very, very warm, well above average temperatures all the way up into the Ohio Valley, where temperatures will warm well into the 60s for a lot of areas. Western U.S., you're cooling back down. You're getting below freezing where you should be this time of the year up here in Montana and North Dakota. And it's definitely a little bit more chillier out west. As you have lower pressure overhead, this is keeping the temperatures much cooler out here. So, all right, let's talk about this storm system as we're getting into this weekend. We'll start off by looking at Saturday afternoon. You see the snow flying around in Colorado, New Mexico, low developing down here. And as you keep this going into like Saturday evening, I think that we could get a snow event from this, like for Denver and areas of eastern Colorado. And this keeps on going. You got rain over here too. That's probably going to put a damper on a lot of people's weekend plans across the mid-south and southeast and deep south. But look at this area of heavier snow on the GFS getting going here in western Kansas, southeast Colorado. And then this low really starts to deepen down here. And I mean, look, this is Sunday afternoon. It's snowing like crazy in Amarillo, Woodward, Oklahoma, western Oklahoma, snowing almost all the way down to Lubbock. Not sure if it'll get all the way down to Midland. We'll have to see. And then we start to get into the overnight hours of Sunday into Monday. And then look at this corridor, moderate to heavy snow from Oklahoma City to Tulsa into southeast sections of Kansas. And we keep this going. Could get us a little bit of snow in extreme northwest sections of Arkansas as we're getting into our Monday. And then look at Missouri. Look at this corridor of snow. It's very small, but it's there. It's compact, and it's probably pretty heavy. I mean, there's a chance for it to be pretty heavy with this almost like this upper level low feature behind this comma head look to it. 999 millibar low back here, probably pumping out some decent moisture back here in the cold air. It's not a lot of cold air. This would be heavy, wet snow. But I think this is going to shift a little bit. These are always very complex forecasts, but GFS says, hey, bring a little bit of snow into areas of Missouri, St. Louis, southern sections of Illinois, and then get some heavy snow into areas of southern Indiana and areas of Kentucky. That's not a forecast, though. I know we're getting close to it, but man, there's still just some question marks. Now, you look at the European with the south central U.S., Sunday morning, it's already snowing down here. It's definitely snowing in areas of New Mexico, but the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas, seeing snow. The theme with the Euro is that the speed is different compared to GFS and the Euro, and the cold is a little bit more in place. So it's a little bit more of a colder scenario when you compare it to the GFS. But you kind of keep this going here, and look, it brings a pretty substantial winter storm, I would say. Down the Oklahoma-Texas border, kind of oozing down into North Texas. So this brings snow down here. I mean, it drops a pretty decent corridor of snow Sunday evening, from southwestern Oklahoma all the way through Oklahoma City through Tulsa. And you kind of keep this going, right? This brings a little bit more snow, a little bit deeper into northern Arkansas. You see the darker blues right in here. That's some moderate snow you're waking up to next Monday morning. And then look at the heavier snow into areas of Missouri. And then we start to get into Monday afternoon. There's a time difference between the Euro and the GFS of about 12 to 18 hours. And I'll show you that more in a second. There's a better way to look at this when I kind of show you the eastern U.S. But look at the snow flying around in northern and southern sections of of Illinois and Indiana. It's wild. The Euro looks a little bit more warmer compared to the GFS, a little bit further out in the life of the storm. But, this throws some snow into St. Louis sometime Monday, some snow in southern sections of Illinois and central sections of Indiana, and then this heads on out. Okay, so what about our friends here in the eastern U.S.? Keep this going. Here comes the moisture building in, 997 millibar low. Look at the snow trying to get going here, in extreme northern and western sections of Kentucky. It's a good chunk of this storm's rain, like 75% of it easily. But, if you can get into some of this cold air to the northern flank of this moisture, you got wet snow. And GFS wants to bring some snow into southern sections of Ohio. And then, listen, the GFS is coming in and throwing a wild card with everything. You would think that it would be merging with all the other model guidance, but it's not. It's coming in much further south, kind of tapping into its own cold air. And now the GFS is saying, and I think this is going to go back north, but I'm just comparing the model guidance. The GFS is trying to bring cold air catching up with this, tries to start to mix some rain with some snow all the way down to Tennessee. And look, it starts to bring snow all the way down to northern sections of both panhandles of West Virginia, northern VA. And you kind of keep this going. And now, it won't snow all the way down to D.C., Baltimore for this system. The GFS is saying, hey, we're taking the southern route. And, it's all snow in New York City. Heavy snow into D.C., Baltimore, Philly, Harrisburg, PA. And it just doesn't get locked in. It never comes north. So you remember we were showing you those crazy runs for southern New England and Maine? GFS says, nah, we're not going to do that. It wants to throw kind of a quick-hitting, heavy hitter winter storm for areas like the Delmarva, the Mid-Atlantic. Even though, Mitch said, I don't see much of a chance for this for the Delmarva or anything like that. GFS says, hey, we're going to throw you a bone, but don't get too wrapped up on what the GFS is showing. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I just don't think I believe it. But we'll see. European, much further north. I mean, you can already tell right off the dot, right? And one thing I want you to notice here, this is where the European has this at 18Z Monday, which is about midday Monday. This is where the GFS has this 18Z Monday. Okay, has it way back here. European's already way up here. So there's a time difference there. But there it is, throwing that corridor of snow into the Ohio Valley. Does not bring snow. It's all rain for southern Ohio. But it brings just the precipitation expansion further north. So you're getting a little bit of snow based off the Euro for Cleveland, up to Erie, all rain for Pittsburgh, all rain for West Virginia with this scenario, all rain for the Mid-Atlantic, the Delmarva, and it really just hits you guys in the interior Northeast with a big-time winter storm. And it's all rain for the most part for the I-95 corridor, the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. Now, even the Euro says, hey, once you start to get into kind of early Tuesday morning, then you might crash to some heavy wet snow in Boston as this storm pulls out. But you notice the big time differences with this, right? It's huge differences. And I do want to mention, there is a system that's consistently showing up behind this, a clipper that's kind of coming down. And you can see this on the GFS too. It's a lot more aggressive. Here it comes. There's a clipper. That's a lot more aggressive. It says, hey, if you don't get nothing off this storm early next week, we'll give you several inches of snow just off this clipper. So, that's something to watch too, but we're kind of just zooming into this one storm. So what about snowfall accumulations from this, folks? I mean, the European ensemble saying that it thinks that the panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma and even, western Oklahoma and even central Oklahoma, that's like a 5 to 6 inch snowfall mean on the European ensemble for Oklahoma City, about 3 to 4 inches for Tulsa, Fort Smith, really Fayetteville, you guys got a few inch snowfall mean, and then it kind of drops off once you start to get into Illinois. But it really likes the idea of southern Missouri too, and even areas of southern sections of Kansas. And then look at the snowfall mean in Colorado, a few inches, a decent 3 to 5 inch snowfall mean in areas of Denver. So, this is a decent signal. This is really growing for this area. It really is. And you look at the GFS ensemble, which typically overdoes it. Now it's the European that's more aggressive ensemble. But the GFS ensemble says, it likes the same area in general. Just, tweak the totals a little bit. But it really likes this area right here. Right into here. Texas and Oklahoma. So What about my folks in the eastern U.S.? And this is between now and the next week, so next Thursday morning. And there it is. You can see how it drops off for the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. But there's still a 1 to 2 inch snowfall mean that slashes through areas of Illinois and Indiana. And it starts to increase a little bit once you get into Ohio. There's a little bit of a signal for Kentucky. It's very weak, though. And then the European ensemble, still likes the idea of northern PA, even central PA, getting some snow. But it pretty much has a solid snowfall mean across all the Northeast. I'm not at the point where I'm comfortable showing operational run totals because, they're just so everywhere. I like looking at the ensemble guidance. I feel like that's the best thing to look at still at this range, especially with the wild variations of model guidance. But this is, and I will tell you, the Canadian favors the European. The Canadian looks awful as far as any kind of storm system. It just looks very strung out. But several inch snowfall mean across the Northeast. What about the GFS ensemble? It's much weaker. It's just a weaker signal in general. But it does throw more of a bone a little bit further south. It gives you guys a chance in the mid-Atlantic. But it's just not a very high-end signal at all for like a huge winter storm or anything like that. Now, the GFS run, says, hey, I think a little bit differently. But you look at the ensembles here. Now, you do look at the severe weather threat with this. This needs to be watched. This is for Sunday. There's a 15% risk, basically a slight risk at day 4 for severe weather. And when you have a low pressure that's developing and then deepening as it moves, northeast or east, on the south and southeast side of this low, you're probably going to have a little bit of a warm sector, a moist sector that gets going, and you're probably going to have some ingredients for some severe weather down here. So we'll watch for that. But, watching the evolution of this storm, it's going to be wild. Rewind 24, 36 hours ago, it was looking like we were going to have a phase. Now, this is your dominant southern stream energy. And here's your northern stream energy sort of flying around. There's no connection. It's just southern stream energy dominated. So, we kind of watch this and, to me, this looks like that it's just going to be its own wave. It's not really going to get any help from the northern stream, but we'll continue to watch this. Now, moving forward, folks, once we get past this winter storm right here and whatever it's going to do, we kind of enter a lull pattern across the central and eastern U.S., maybe a little activity moving in out west. And then, we watch that clipper. This could do something. I think it will. And then we start to watch this moisture bubbling up to the south in the Gulf of Mexico and Mexico. Watch cold air to the north. How is it going to come down? Are we going to get some kind of anchored high up here, a 50-50 low somewhere over here? We got cold air kind of setting up in Canada and the north central U.S. We got a system flying into the north. Look at the time frame we're at. We're next weekend. We got moisture bubbling up right into here, cold air trying to catch in. You got cold air already anchored in over the northeastern areas of the mid-Atlantic. And the latest GFS says, hey, blockbuster winter storm for areas of the Ohio Valley, the mid-Atlantic, and then eventually getting into sections of southern New England, and then it heads on out. And, goes on to really be a big-time winter storm for you folks. But if you look at the GFS runs prior to this, like 2 runs prior to this, it didn't show anything for this. But if you look at the one like at lunchtime yesterday, it showed wild stuff. GFS is and that's why we don't look at model guidance too far past 10 days. GFS is absolutely everywhere. It does not have a clue what's going to happen. And we don't either. So it really just... I'll be honest. The GFS is not what we want to see if you're a winter weather fan. The evolution of what happens... it's just everywhere. European, all we know is once we get past that storm signal, because the European only goes out 10 days, there's that clipper. There's the moisture bubbling up from the south central U.S., Gulf of Mexico, and there's the cold air right here. So what's going to happen right here? All right. What I can tell you is the European is not as cold, as pressed with that cold air surge to the south as it's been over the last couple runs. But that might not be a terrible thing because, if you're a winter weather fan. Because, the deal is that, you get too much of a cold air press, it's going to suppress all moisture and keep it in the Gulf of Mexico. You're just going to get cold and dry. So you stop it right here. You don't know what's about to happen. I can tell you it's too warm in areas of the south for any kind of winter weather for this. Cold air is not kind of moved in, but at the same time, you got cold air about to move in. One thing I'll watch for, if you were to keep this run going, this moisture would continue to move this way, and with cold air kind of locked in place up here, you would probably get something to what the GFS showed, but obviously not identical. And the Canadian model right at the end is still just kind of gung ho about a big old cold air press. I mean, it just drops the entire Arctic Circle down into the lower 48 8 to 9 to 10 days from now. But it's hard to necessarily believe that. But it drops so much cold air down that it keeps all this moisture kind of bottled up into the Gulf of Mexico. So we'll continue to watch this, folks. I mean, there's a little bit of a signal off the European ensemble. There it is. You kind of can see it attaching to the south. Kind of surges there, spikes a little bit. And you can see how it spikes across the eastern U.S. as we get into the 19th, 20th, and 21st kind of time frame. But it's so far out, it's hard to really honestly pay a whole lot of detailed attention to it. And then the same thing with the kind of the GFS ensemble, folks. There's that signal for the Clipper that kind of moves in. And then what happens after that? There's that little bit of a signal for the 18th, 19th, 20th range. And then you got a little bit of a signal that shows up after that, around the 20th. If you kind of go back or remember what I was saying and kind of beginning before I started shifting my thoughts to the 18th to the 20th, I originally thought we needed to wait till after the 20th for the southeast. And we might be talking about that again, but there's so much to figure out, folks. And if you look at this signal right here, which is probably some sort of outlier signal, you got a signal showing up around the 20th on the GFS ensemble for the southeast. But folks, there's a lot to figure out with this for sure. So that's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all and have an awesome Thursday.